One day, Barron Trump, the youngest son of former U.S. President Donald Trump, was quietly waiting for his flight in a busy airport lounge. Immersed in his book, he was calmly passing the time. However, his reserved nature and solitary behavior caught the attention of the airport staff. They began questioning him, suspecting something unusual, which left Barron feeling confused and overwhelmed. As the staff continued their questioning, Barron struggled to explain himself. Being naturally introverted, he found it hard to articulate his thoughts under pressure. The growing attention from nearby passengers only made things worse, leaving him visibly anxious. Misinterpreting his discomfort as defiance, the staff decided to temporarily escort him out of the lounge, creating an awkward scene that caught everyone's attention. The situation quickly escalated as the staff's actions caught the attention of nearby passengers. Whispers and murmurs filled the air as people started speculating about what was happening. Some passengers, unsure of the circumstances, began recording the scene on their phones, sharing it with their social media followers. Barron, caught in the spotlight and feeling humiliated, tried to maintain his composure, but the intense pressure was taking a toll on him. His face reddened as his anxiety became more apparent. He was a quiet and reserved young man, and the last thing he needed was such unwanted attention. Meanwhile, the staff remained unfazed, convinced they were simply following protocol. They assumed that Barron's unease was a sign of guilt or trouble, rather than understanding that he was just a shy teenager overwhelmed by the situation. Little did they know, this decision was about to backfire in a big back at home. Melania Trump received a call about the incident. Concerned and frustrated, she immediately made her way to the airport. As a mother, she knew how sensitive Barron could be in such situations, and she was determined to stand up for him. Her arrival was as poised and graceful as ever, but beneath her calm demeanor was a mother ready to defend her child. Upon entering the lounge area, Melania's presence was immediately felt. The atmosphere, which had been filled with murmurs of gossip and curiosity, fell silent as everyone turned to look at her. It wasn't just because she was a public figure, but because of the quiet authority she exuded. Melania didn't have to say a word for people to recognize the weight of the situation. The passengers who had been watching the scene unfold, many of them still clutching their phones, knew something serious was about to happen. As she made her way through the lounge, she approached the staff with an unflinching gaze, making it clear that she was not there for small talk. Her tone was calm but firm, a perfect balance of grace and power. She immediately demanded to know what had happened, her voice cutting through the tension in the air. The staff, realizing who they were speaking to, froze for a moment. They fumbled with their words, unsure of how to respond, and the uneasy looks on their faces betrayed the realization that they had misjudged the entire situation. Melania didn't raise her voice. Instead, her composed demeanor made it clear that she was in full control and she wasn't going to let them off the hook easily. Melania listened intently as the airport staff attempted to explain their actions. The staff members, visibly nervous under her calm but stern gaze, tried to justify their decision, explaining that they had simply followed protocol. They claimed that Barron's behavior had seemed unusual, and because of his apparent discomfort, they assumed something was wrong. However, Melania, who knew her son better than anyone, wasn't satisfied with their explanation. She took a deep breath, her posture still poised, but her words now sharpened with clarity and concern. She calmly explained that Barron was a shy, introverted teenager who often struggled with anxiety in public spaces. Melania emphasized that his reserved nature and discomfort in crowds were not signs of trouble, but rather part of his personality. She made it clear that the airport staff's hasty judgment had been not only unnecessary, but also harmful. Barron, she pointed out, had been embarrassed by the entire ordeal. His anxiety had been heightened, and instead of offering him help or understanding, the staff had treated him as if he were a problem to be dealt with. Her words were measured, yet forceful, and the staff began to realize the gravity of their actions. They hadn't just made a mistake. They had caused emotional distress to a young boy who was already in a vulnerable situation. The head of the airport staff, now fully aware of the mistake they had made, immediately began apologizing to Barron. The staff member who had been most involved in escorting him out of the lounge appeared especially remorseful. They acknowledged that they had misjudged Barron and that their actions were not only wrong, but also hurtful. They assured Melania that such an incident would not happen again and promised to review their protocols for handling similar situations in the future. Their tone was sincere, and it was clear that they regretted how things had played out. Melania, although still upset, accepted their apologies gracefully. She understood that while the staff had acted out of ignorance rather than malice, the consequences of their actions were still very real. She took a moment to ensure that Barron, who had been quiet throughout the exchange, was okay. Barron looked at his mother with a sense of relief, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. Although still shaken by the ordeal, he was comforted by the fact that his mother had defended him so fiercely. Melania, while accepting the apology, reminded the staff of the importance of being more considerate and understanding, especially when dealing with children or people with anxiety. She knew that it was not just about correcting this one situation, but also about setting an example for how others should be treated in the future. The staff nodded, acknowledging the lesson learned. It was a moment of personal growth for them, albeit one that had come at a significant cost to Barron's peace of mind. As Melania and Barron prepared to leave the airport, the staff couldn't help but feel a deep sense of regret. The reality of their actions had set in, and they were now fully aware of how they had mishandled the situation. What had started as a simple misunderstanding had escalated into a public embarrassment for a young teenager. Barron, still looking a bit rattled, followed his mother out of the lounge. His head was down, and he kept his gaze focused on the floor, trying to escape the lingering feeling of humiliation. Melania, however, walked beside him, her presence a quiet but powerful reassurance. She had fought for him, and now she was making sure he felt safe and protected. The airport staff, once confident in their decision, now wished they had handled the situation differently. They regretted not taking the time to properly assess Barron's demeanor and behavior before jumping to conclusions. They understood that their quick judgment had caused unnecessary emotional distress, and for that, they would have to live with the consequences. As they watched Melania and Barron leave the airport, they silently vowed to approach such situations with more empathy in the future. As Melania and Barron walked through the airport toward the exit, a sense of calm began to settle over them. Barron, though still a bit shaken, started to feel better with each step, his mother's presence grounding him. She placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, giving him a small but comforting smile. Melania knew that the ordeal was far from over for Barron emotionally, but she also knew that her support was unwavering. He was her priority, and she would always be there to protect him, no matter the circumstances. Barron glanced up at her, and for the first time that day, he seemed to relax a little. There was comfort in knowing that, no matter how difficult things got, his mother would always stand by him. For Melania, this incident was a reminder of how quickly misunderstandings could spiral out of control, especially in public settings. She had been prepared for the worst when she arrived, but now, seeing Barron gradually regain his composure, she knew that they had come through this challenge together. It was a difficult day, but one that had ultimately strengthened their bond. As they left the airport, Melania kept her head high, knowing that her actions had made a difference, even if it had taken a while to correct the mistake. News of the incident spread quickly, and people began discussing it online. Some social media users expressed sympathy for Barron, recognizing the challenges of growing up in the public eye. Others criticized the airport staff for their lack of understanding and their quick decision to eject Barron without assessing the situation properly. The story became a conversation about empathy and how important it is to consider a person's mental state before making judgments. It was a reminder that assumptions can often lead to mistakes, especially when it comes to children or those with anxiety. The incident, while embarrassing for Barron, ended up bringing much-needed attention to the importance of compassion in public spaces. In the aftermath, Melania received messages of support from people who admired her calm and determined handling of the situation. Many appreciated how she spoke up for Barron and defended him in a way that showed her unwavering love as a mother. Barron, on the other hand, began to realize the strength of the support system around him. His mother's actions had made him feel valued and protected, and although the incident had shaken him, he knew it was an experience he could learn from. He began to understand that standing up for yourself wasn't always easy, but with the right people by your side, it was possible to face difficult situations head on. As the weeks passed, the incident slowly faded from public memory, but for Barron, the lessons learned that day stayed with him. He knew now that misunderstandings could happen at any moment, but he also knew how important it was to have a strong, loving support system in place to help navigate those challenges. Melania, too, took away lessons from the experience. She became even more protective of Barron, ensuring that he felt safe and understood in all situations, especially those in the public eye. The bond between mother and son had deepened, and the incident had brought them even closer together. Looking back, Melania saw the incident at the airport as a turning point for both of them. It had tested her patience and resolve as a mother, but it had also proven to Barron that his family would always stand by him. The experience had opened both of their eyes to the importance of empathy and understanding, and they both knew they had grown stronger because of it. For Barron, it was a reminder that not everyone would understand him, but that didn't make him any less worthy of respect. For Melania, it reinforced her determination to protect her family at all costs and to ensure that they were never misunderstood again. Ultimately, the incident at the airport had a lasting impact on both Barron and Melania. While it had been a difficult and public ordeal, it had also shown them how quickly things could go wrong when assumptions were made without understanding the full story. Barron gained confidence in knowing that his mother would always be there for him, even in the most challenging situations. And for Melania, the experience solidified her role as not only a mother, but as a fierce protector of her family. In the end, they both came out of the situation stronger, more resilient, and more united than ever. Q.